Hey there, baseball fans. Nathan Rohde and Shooter Hunt here for Prep Baseball Report, coming at you with another edition of Coffee and Curveballs. Talk baseball. Shooter likes his curveballs and his coffee. And believe it or not, Shooter, I've got some of my own. Not a coffee drinker myself, but just came back from Southeast Asia, done with some vacation, came back with some good stuff. So maybe I'll give it a try.
Go for it. Go for it. It's the good stuff.
Yeah. But I'm back, great vacation, ready to get back into talking some baseball. So we're going to continue on with some 2019 rankings. Last week we went over some of the top guys, and Bobby Witt Jr., Matthew Thompson, Hunter Barco. We're going to go a little more in depth now, starting with kind of that next group of the 2019. So Shooter, why don't you start us off? Tell us a little bit about Riley Greene and Kate Doty.
Again, a deep class for the 2019s. Couldn't do it in one episode, so we're bringing them back. But Riley Greene's a guy who I think may just be the best hitter in the 2019 class. Left-handed hitting outfielder from Florida, committed to Florida. He's a 6'2", 180-pounder. I've seen him probably get 10 to 15 hits in a few national tournaments. It just seems like he barrels everything, and it's loud off the bat. Gap to gap. He's got some pull side power. He's so quiet and confident and relaxed in the box. He looks like a big league hitter already. And it's still a lot more to grow into his frame, but it's exciting to think of what he could be.
Absolutely. He walks into that box and he already looks the part with that long, lean frame. And then, like you said, every time he's in there, it's loud contact off the bat. It's almost like you can turn around, put your back to the field, and know that it's Riley Greene hitting just from the sound that it makes off that bat.
Yeah, and the thing that I as a pitcher always looked at was, how is a guy taking pitches? And Riley Greene's a guy who doesn't matter how good the hammer is that you're throwing him or the slider, he calmly takes it. Okay, next pitch, nothing seems to affect him, and he drives the next one. So even when he doesn't look good on one pitch, it doesn't affect him. So those pitch-to-pitch adjustments that he makes, it just puts him on another level. And then Kate Doty is just an absolutely outstanding athlete.
Right.
Jumps he's made at shortstop to where, hey, he could possibly stick there, even though his athleticism as a 6'6" runner could put him in center field or a corner spot. I think he's also been up to 90 on the bump. But he's a guy who it's just like, next summer is going to be big for him, and he could be catching some helium really fast.
And certainly, kind of continuing the trend for Louisiana of having a top prospect. We had Blaine Enlow in the 2017 class. Looking ahead to 2018, you got Landon Marceau as well as C.J. Willis, among others, that are going to be, really good prospects for Louisiana. And then you look on to 2019 and Kate Doty, just continuing that trend for the Bayou State.
Oh, without a doubt. And it's actually a funny story about him is on the mound. And these are the stories that come out of high school baseball and the legendary stuff. As a sophomore, Doty's pitching against his rival school, and they're chirping at him from the side. And he's going out, guys, strike out, and he's letting them know on the bench. And nonstop chatter back and forth to win the game for Doty. But guys like that who can get up for the big game and just love having those lights on them, that's this kind of special stuff that MLB teams are looking for.
No doubt. It's definitely something that's gonna help him out. Let's take a look at some guys in this 2019 class who are trending upward. You could say that their stock is up, even though most of them are committed, if not all of them, and they're not quite eligible for the draft. So, saying stock up, you might be forcing it a little bit, but these guys certainly have the arrow pointing up on them. Start off with Michael Doolin. And just tell us what he's done for himself, this summer and fall to kind of jack himself up the rankings.
And we've preached it before, but those arms coming out of Indiana, they keep coming. And Doolin's a Vanderbilt commit, really smart student. So that Vanderbilt degree is valuable to him. But a 6'3", 180-pounder. There were some scout or recruiters this summer who I sat next to while watching Doolin who were like, I don't think I've seen this kid in 40, 50 innings walk more than 3 guys. And it's pinpoint control to both sides. It's been up to 90, maybe 91, but sits in that 87, 88 range, but working both sides of the plate, fastball, curveball, changeup. Just probably the best command of any pitcher in the class right now. And he was shut down for the fall after throwing a lot during the spring and summer. But I actually ran into him in Indianapolis at our fall championships in September. And I'm 6'3". He's listed as 6'3". I thought he towered over me. And I was looking at a high school kid like, this kid's humongous. He looks like he's going to throw 200 innings a year for a long time. So he's one that I think is going to be real good.
Gotcha. And you talk about somebody towering over you. Let's go to the opposite end of that spectrum. No disrespect, because I love the little guy, but let's talk a little bit about Anthony Volpe, the infielder from the Northeast.
Oh yeah, another Jersey boy. Well, Anthony Volpe, I got to tell you, is every coach in the country's favorite player. He can only go to one school. He's going to Vanderbilt, but every coach loves him, and how can you not? He runs on the field every single inning, plays it at the highest level. He's a shortstop who I keep bringing up Nick Allen type comps because it's just so defensive and just the size in general, but he can really pick it at short. And every now and then they'll move him to third or second, and he's just as good there. And at the plate, he comes up in big spots. You and I watched him at Area Code. Was there any doubt he was getting a hit to win the game with the runner on second? It's a no-doubt situation. And his baseball IQ, it may be the best in this class. It may be the best in the 18 class. He's just in the right spot at the right time all the time.
Yeah, definitely. Nick Allen is kind of that easy one to draw to because, we just saw him picked in the second round, third round, this past year. But I do see some similarities between him and a high school version of Nick Madrigal, who's now obviously starring for Oregon State, very likely a top 10 pick. If Volpe goes to school, will he become that kind of guy, Madrigal being a top 10 pick? I don't know, and that's really hard to put on a kid at this point, especially considering he's only a junior in high school. But I see those comparisons even more with Madrigal and Volpe because, Madrigal was he still is small, but he was really small in high school. It was almost kind of like, are we really looking at this guy? But then the more you watched him play and the more you saw the actions, the quick twitch, the ability to handle the bat, the glove at shortstop, and just the overall baseball IQ, he grew on you. And I see a lot of that in Volpe. And, Nick Allen is definitely a guy that's, pretty easy, to make that comparison as well. And then if you want to look at the 2018 class, we got, Matt McLean out of California and also Xavier Edwards, kid out of Florida.
Yes.
And
another
Vanderbilt commit here, sensing a theme. It's really interesting and a lot of fun to watch those little guys that, where they make the most of what they have and kind of play above, their physicality. But kind of in that same realm, you talk about Jacob Meter out of Texas. Like he's by no means like a little guy, but he's not your prototypical pitcher when you look at the physicality of him. I mean, he's not scrawny. He's definitely got some strength to him, but he's not 6'4", 200 pounds with that ultra projection. He's more of that kind of sub 6 foot, 6 foot if you like him, right-hander.
Yeah, and it's the polish for Meter. He's a TCU commit, and 88 to 90. It's not like he's not bringing it. It's coming in hot, and he commands it really well with his fastball. But what separates him is the slider, and his ability to get swings and misses with it. He sets it up. I mean, I watched him go inside to a lefty with 2 fastballs and then just backleg the kid, and it was just not fair. It's dropping off the table, swing and miss pitch, and in Jupiter, you talk about, I want to say he gave up an infield single to start the game and struck out 12 in a row. So it's the guy who's getting swings and misses with both his fastball and his slider, and he just has that winning mentality. So it looks like to be a guy who gets to TCU, you're talking about for 3 years, you're going to know this kid's name, and he's going to win a lot of ball games for Coach Slosh.
Yeah, no doubt. And that I think that was the point that I made on the podcast when we talked about, Meter after the area code games, was I could very easily see a guy like him. He's the kind of guy that I'm going to put money on it right now, that if he ends up at TCU, that we're going to be watching him as a freshman or sophomore, and certainly as a junior, as the go-to guy, game one of the super regional, for TCU. He's walking out on the mound, and one of the college pitchers that the whole country knows because of how competitive and how much of a big game pitcher he is. And that short stint that we saw in the area code games of what he could bring, I mean, hands down, easily, I can see him being one of those guys.
Without a doubt. And I mean, right now you're seeing a lot of smaller pitchers in the big leagues have success. Marcus Stroman, guys like that who it's electric stuff. It doesn't matter. They don't all have to be 6'4", 200 pounds or whatever it is. These guys get outs. They got electric arms and stuff. So
yeah. Well, speaking of big arms, let's go to Oklahoma and Cale Davis, who's got a big old breaking ball and then has that, what we were just kind of alluding to, that projectable frame that you really look for in the pitchers, that Shooter Hunt type frame.
Oh, he's way bigger than me. He's 6'4", 210. I mean, he's an ox out there. And we saw him at the future games, and I pulled you over. I said, hey, you see this breaking ball? That's a Friday night breaking ball. And as I say, changeups are for Sundays. Friday night, bring the spin, get some swings and misses. That's what it's about. So
changeups are for Sundays.
Hey, changeups are for Sundays. Spin it to win it, And that's what Cale Davis does. But the frame, it's square shoulders, gets downhill. It's a guy you don't feel comfortable in the box against. And when he's commanding those two pitches, and also a good changeup, he's tough to beat. And, I mean, scouts are really going to like that frame moving forward, too.
And then let's kind of shift topics here and look at, a region as a theme for the 2019 class. In our notes, Shooter, you said Northern Lights, and you're really highlighting some guys, from those northern cold weather states in Will Frisch, Quinn Priester, Sebastian Keene, and Jack Washburn.
Yeah, it's the northern kids just don't get as many innings. You look at a state of Texas or Florida, where that high school season, those pitchers throw 60 to 70 innings, where a lot of northern high schools, a kid who throws a lot of innings is throwing 30 to 35, and they just don't get as much. And I guess I like them because they're fresher arms. Northern guys usually spin it a little bit better because they're trying to get those swings and misses on poor surfaces. But Will Frisch really shined at the future games. Was up to 93, 6'1", 210 pounds. He throws what I like to call a power changeup, meaning he really rips it off. It's got late life to it. It's almost heavy in zone with some sink. And you saw the same thing out at area code. It's a swing and miss pitch.
Yeah, so I think some people can really kind of, and I know it's happened, it's kind of come at you like, how can you have a power changeup? What does that mean? Well, you said it exactly. I think it has to do with the heaviness in that you have a changeup that's going to induce weak contact or even break a bat, even though it is an off-speed pitch.
Yeah, he could really, he may even have better command of his changeup than his fastball. But they're both very good pitches. It's a physical frame that looks durable. Also, the slider is about 77 to 80. That's still more developing, although I think I like it more when he throws it harder than as opposed to more of a curveball, slower type pitch. But he's a guy to eat up some innings. Another TCU commit. And then actually moving on to another TCU commit, Quinn Priester, the kid from Illinois. TCU is just rolling out arms after arms.
Yeah, Coach Sarlos is really building up the wealth there.
But Priester's a 6'3", 185-pounder. We saw out at area code. And he's also a football player, so he's an athlete. And those innings, he hasn't obtained as many as his southern peers. But it's a fastball that's up to 93, sits mostly 89 to 91, quick, strong arm. But what separates him is the big breaking ball. And it's a high ceiling pitch, which has a chance to be plus in the future, especially as he gets more innings and kind of adjusts to just playing more baseball. But the frame leaves a lot to like about him.
Yeah, we saw him at area code games, and I don't think it was a terrible outing, but I don't think it was lights out either, if I remember correctly. But I still walked away from that being like, I like that guy. Sign me up.
There you go. And it wasn't outstanding. Again, he was probably in football, and he's probably playing basketball and running track and playing tennis and lacrosse. He probably plays 20 sports, but got out to something. It still looked very good.
And you're sneaking a Northeastern commit into this conversation too with Sebastian Keene.
You know what? I saw Keene from across the way at Diamond Nation in New Jersey in June, and I turned my head and I said, "Who is that?" And I walked right over there and be like, "Who is this kid? This kid's uncommitted?" And they said, "No, Northeastern." So kudos to Northeastern because Sebastian Keene's a really nice arm. And he's 6'3", 160, still growing into his frame. He's going to, add some more muscle and weight. But was up to 89, and it's one of those guys who he looks like a shortstop out there. So a lot of athleticism and a lot more to come for him. And similarly, Jack Washburn out of Wisconsin, and if that Washburn name sounds familiar, Nathan.
Especially it being from Wisconsin. Washburn isn't exactly a unique name, but when you throw out the name Washburn with being from Wisconsin, the light bulb should go off if you're a baseball fan.
Well, Jared Washburn is his dad, the former pitcher for the Angels. I believe World Series champion. Was he a World Series champion?
Yeah, he was with the 2002 Angels when they won the World Series.
Okay, good for him. And anyway, his son's pretty good too. Jack is 6'2", 175. Again, I think he has like a size 15 or 16 shoe, so still growing into it. He still looks like a little kid, but he's going to be an absolute monster on the mound. Oregon State commit, but has run his fastball at the 90, had a good experience at the future games, but his slider, again, is the separator. Once he kind of hones that, it's already a hard, sharp pitch at 74 to 77, and it's only going to get better. So
I'm not sure how you walk with a size 15 or 16 shoe, but that's beside the point. Shooter, give us some of your picks to click here. A couple of guys, that you like. Maybe you like more than you should, but some guys that you're really, willing to go out on a limb for.
Well, I always like the younger-looking athletic arms. So guys who are like, oh, this kid's pretty good, and once he kind of makes that jump physically, it's gonna, take off. And Blake Mayfield, a Texas A&M commit from Texas, is a guy who I really liked. I saw him in Jupiter, was 86 to 88, but his feel for pitching and how to set up hitters and having a plan was way more advanced than I was in high school than just, here it is, hit it. He was going in and out, dropping in his breaking ball, showing sharp late sliders for swings and misses, flipping it over early in counts, and everything was so crisp and polished with the delivery. And he's still, let's say, he's 6'1", 160, a lot more coming to that frame. I stood next to his dad, and his dad's a taller guy and looks like the prototypical pitcher build. And I think Blake's going to shoot up in the spring. And then from the hitting side, Tyler Callahan out of Florida is one of my favorite hitters, might be my favorite guy in the class. Because when he steps up to the plate, it's fun to watch.
Yeah,
he is not getting cheated up there, and we actually saw him face Hunter Barco in that great outing out in Jupiter. And I stood next to the on deck circle and listened to him kind of telling the other guys on the team, "Hey, this is what we're working with." He had a plan, and then got up there and he just missed it. He skied a fly ball in his first at bat against Barco, but a left-handed stick. South Carolina commit. I know Coach Kingston's going to be real happy to have him in the middle of the order for a few years.
And who's your sleeper? Who's a guy in this 2019 class that nobody's talking about and they should know better? They should listen to Shooter Hunt.
Well, I'm going to stick to a northern guy out of Ohio named Jack Frank. So he's an outfielder. 6'1", 190, just starting to fill into his frame. I saw some swings recently from him. He's really gotten even more physical from the last time we saw him at the Future Games 2 years ago. Throughout last summer and the fall, he's starting to make those jumps that our guys in Ohio, Jordan Giero, Chris Valentine, all those guys really think he's going to take that jump, and I'm with him because he's super athletic. And he's a Michigan State commit, so the Big Ten, he has a chance to tear it up there. So he's a guy that I really like this spring.
And I'll throw one at you in 2019 class. I know my focus is usually on the draft, but I'll throw a 19 out there for you. I'm going to go back to the state of Louisiana. I like the baseball that comes out of there, especially out of Barbe High School, where Carter Quinn goes. It's a big-time program in the state. Coached by Glenn Cicchini. He's got two sons who have been big leaguers. But Quinn was at the All-State games for Trey Sofio in PBR, Louisiana. ran a 6'9", 360, smooth left-handed swing, threw 90 from the outfield, so he's got some arm strength there, and definitely, obviously, if he's a projectable physical kid, you could probably see that arm getting a little stronger as he, continues to mature physically. But he remains uncommitted, and he's got a real chance to blow up. So that's certainly a name that we probably should keep an eye on.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. There's so many athletic infielders and outfielders in Louisiana. It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. It certainly is. It'll be certainly interesting to see how all of this plays out with the 2019 class. So we've got plenty more on the 2019 class. If you go to prepbaseballreport.com, the hot list highlighted some guys that are on the rise. Shooter, with his feature called On the Hunt, obviously always looks at a lot of underclassmen, so no shortage of 2019s to check out there. I'm sure we'll be podcasting pretty soon as well, talking about the 2019 class. If it feels like we're beating a dead horse, I promise you we're not. It's a really good class, and it's worthy of all this conversation. So be sure to check out all of our other content on prepbaseballreport.com. Two more quick things for you before we get a move on. First up, we want to talk a little bit about the PBR Limited Series, an initiative we just announced a little while back before I actually went on vacation, which feels like was ages ago. But it's going to be high-profile, invite-only tournaments. It's going to be promoted by us, scouted by us. It's going to be one of those things where the intent is to bring in the best of the best, but keep it focused regionally. So you're not looking at big travel for teams. You're not trying to go all the way across the country just to play in a tournament to face good competition. You can do it within your region. Try to keep some of the costs down for a lot of these teams. And also keep it, very concentrated. You don't have to have 100 or more teams in a tournament for it to be good. You can keep it very focused on a few teams. So that certainly is the focus of the limited series, and something that we're looking forward to bringing to you guys in 2018 and beyond. And I know, Shooter, that's certainly been something that's been on your radar immediately.
Oh, I think it's going to be an incredible setup, because I already have our state directors calling saying, hey, my tournament's filling up real quickly. It's looking awesome. Can you come out here and get some coverage of it? And I'm already starting to plan my summer schedule around this, where, hey, these smaller type tournaments where you have good teams playing against good teams right from the get-go instead of kind of drifting their way along. It's much easier to scout for college and pro scouts, and it's more fun for us, where hey, let's tee it up real quick and get after it from the get-go.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what our guys can put together, what sort of events, and what kind of teams we can bring in for good competition. But unlike you, I'm still focusing on my spring schedule. Haven't quite figured that out, so I haven't quite got to the summer yet, but definitely looking forward to seeing what I can see in the summer, because the more the better. Gotta cram in as much as you can. But last thing before we go, just a look ahead, coming soon on more editions of Coffee and Curveballs. We're going to shift our attention back to the 2018 class, go around some of the major conferences as well as the mid-major conferences, and look at the recruiting classes. Mid-November, we just passed the early signing period, so a lot of those verbal commitments, that'll be a topic for another day as well. But all those verbal commitments became official with the players signing their letters of intent. So we'll take a look around, the SEC, ACC, Big 12, the Big 10. We'll even go over some of those mid-major conferences and highlight, some of the top incoming classes that those schools have to look forward to, but also kind of speculate as to what kind of effect the draft will have on those classes. So certainly be on the lookout for that. Shooter, I know you got to know the 18 class well when you first got started with us. Now kind of seeing them move on, so I know you'll be excited to talk about what they could mean for a college program, and how the draft might affect it as well.
Oh yeah, and with all the freshmen who have been coming in recently and making quick impacts, it's going to be fun, especially for our college baseball fans like myself, to check out some of these 18 recruiting classes that are going to be coming on campus, hopefully, for a lot of these guys. So
definitely. Not to mention, remember, announced a big partnership with D1 Baseball, hired Davis Seifert to be our college scouting director. A lot of great work the guys do over at D1 Baseball. A lot of this stuff we're doing is very relevant to that college game. So definitely be sure to check it out. It's not about just the top draft guys. There's a lot of information out there. You know, you don't have to hear about these guys when they're juniors pitching in the super regional or, you know, hitting walk-off bombs at super regional. Hear about them when they're in high school, man. We've got all the information for you. PrepBaseballReport.com. Be sure to check it out. He's Shooter Hunt. I'm Nathan Rohde. This is Coffee and Curveballs. Until next time, we'll see you at the ballpark.